And this play is called Not in My Group, and it was written originally by two of our players over there, Heather and Chelsea. Raise your hand. Yes, okay. So this play takes place in a classroom setting, specifically in a group project setting, and group dynamics go awry, and the issues that this play touches upon include heterosexism, homophobia, and male privilege. And again, like we said in the morning, these are very complex issues. We are only scratching the surface with this play to spark dialogue. By no means are we hitting all the complexities of these issues. So we mean no disrespect by that. Okay. So, do you want to come on stage, the players, and they will introduce. So, similar to the morning, who was here in the morning? Okay. Who was not here in the morning? Okay. So, really quickly, we are going to perform this play one time through. It's going to be similar to what we did in the morning. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about what you see happening in this play, and then we will do another interactive exercise to get into the heads of each of the characters. Slightly different from the morning. But nonetheless, you know, an activity to get into the heads of these characters and what's going on in this contentious situation. And then we will run the interactive forum theater part with this particular play. Okay? And we will, you know, reiterate the rules for intervening as we go along, and let you know who's intervenable and who's not, etc. So, without further ado, I would like for each player to introduce themselves and the character that they're playing in this play.
Hi, my name is Noralis, and my character's name is Dr. Ramos, and she's an assistant professor.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Jennings, and I'm going to be playing April, who's a student in the class.
My name's Heather. I'll be playing Bridget, who is also a student.
My name is Paul, and this time I'm playing a character named Jeff, and hopefully I will remember the right name. In rehearsal on Wednesday, I mixed them up, but I'm a student in the class also.
And I'm Kaylin, and I'm playing Morgan, who is also a student in the class.
All right. So I think just for right now, I'm going to give one reminder that these are all actors, and they are playing characters. And even though Paul is in 2 plays, he is not like any of his characters. So the actors are going to get set up for the play and do it once through. And just a reminder that some of the characters, their identities and some of how they identify will come out in the scene, and some will say how they identify, but not all characters are revealing everything about their identities, just as we all walk around in the world and don't reveal everything about ourselves or what we wrote on those links that we wrote on earlier. So just remember that. And we iterate and talk about some of the identity markers because the particular play is focused on one topic, but it doesn't mean that all those other identities are existing together and some of them aren't being named. Okay, so let's begin.
Hi.
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 Hi. Hey, I like your Tegan and Sarah sticker. My girlfriend is obsessed with them.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, they're great.
Hey.
Hey.
Okay, so we've been talking about how academic argument is a conversation And let me write the names of the authors we've read so far on the board.
Hey,
Hey,
did you do the reading?
yeah, sort of. How about you?
I thought it was kind of stupid.
Okay, so we've read these authors' perspectives about social media and privacy. And today I'm going to ask you to get into groups of 4. And you're going to write a radio interview. So you're going to have 15 minutes to write a script. And where one person is the interviewer and the other 3 are the authors you've chosen, okay? And then we can perform that interview for the class. Let me know if you guys have any questions.
Do you two want to be in our group?
Sure.
Sure.
So, who wants to write this down?
Not me.
I can do it. Do we want to start with authors or interview questions?
Well, authors would obviously be way easier.
Okay, so what authors do you want to use?
Well, I really like that one about how Facebook has improved communication just because it's so opposite of what people usually say.
Oh yeah, I know, right? The other ones are kind of lame for being all down on Facebook, right? Like, who doesn't like Facebook?
But how would we turn that into an interview? We should do it on the one on liking on Facebook.
No, there's that one, it's about like being in a coffee shop and it's like, what's more important, talking to the barista or texting your sister?
Oh, that example we talked about in class?
Yeah,
I think that's
Yeah.
Regina Lynn.
yeah.
So we'll go ahead and start with that author then.
Sure.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should find the place in the article where
there's
it
actually another
says that.
place that's better in that article. I've got it highlighted here.
How's everything going over here?
It'd be fine if they'd stop flirting.
What? What did you just say to me?
What?
Whatever. God, we weren't flirting. That's disgusting anyways.
What?
Okay, everybody,
No.
10 more minutes to finish your interviews. How is this group doing?
Why would you even say that? What's wrong with you?
I already said I was just joking. Get
Yeah,
over
you wouldn't think it was
it.
funny if somebody said that about you and some guy.
Ever.
What an asshole.
Is everything okay here?
Well,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
hey, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go to the bathroom.
Okay. So, from the audience, I need some volunteers to talk about what you saw happening in the scene. What happened in the scene?
Well, one thing I noticed immediately was as soon as the initial conflict happened, everyone shut down. And no one wanted to, well, I guess I take that back. One person made an attempt to try to see if there was a resolution or try to investigate further, but after that it was just completely shut down. And I think that's pretty typical in a lot of situations. Yeah.
So they weren't even doing their work, and they weren't engaging, and they weren't talking to each other. Okay, it was completely shut down. Okay.
Jeff, you just assumed something about the 2 girls that you probably don't even know, right? You insinuated an accusation that shouldn't have been insinuated.
Okay, so Jeff made an assumption and said something
He
out loud.
assumed, yeah, the comment that he made, I think he was basing it off of, from what I'm getting.
I was just joking.
Yeah, you didn't say it like that.
Okay, other things that people noticed.
In Jeff's role, he was basically not willing to acknowledge any input from the ladies as it was his way. He had a new idea, and that was the idea he was going to present it, irrelevant
So he was trying to take control a little of the group and trying to assert his ideas without listening. Okay. Sharon?
But there was something going on before that when, I'm sorry, the name of the character, the woman in the blue shirt?
Bridget?
Bridget came in late, disrupting the class, sort of asserting herself in less than ideal ways, I guess one could say. So it set the tone in a not so good way.
So Bridget came in late and setting kind of an uneasy tone for the group work to begin with. That's what you saw. Okay.
Ready? Okay. So I think Bridget felt some type of way about him saying that about there being another woman, because she had said that you wouldn't, when she had said something about, I can't remember exactly what she said, but went something to the extent of you wouldn't have said that if it was another guy or something like that. So it kind of showed her feelings toward the actual comment he said.
So once again, my focus seems to be on the leader because I'm a faculty member. And so in this particular case, the instructor is acting like she doesn't even see that something is going on, right? It's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. I'm just going to act like I don't see it, and then maybe it'll go away by itself. Perhaps some intervention from her may have put them in a better direction.
Okay, keep that in mind because the instructor is an intervenable character. Ooh. Okay. Okay.
It was a pretty intense reaction from the person in the blue, and then also kind of assumed that the person on the end was like heterosexual. Like it was as if they would think it's like so gross if it was two guys or something. So that was a pretty big assumption on that end as well.
Okay, so assumptions about each other are being made and being explicated out loud. Yes.
Yeah, so I agree with her because I feel like he made an assumption and judged the girls because they had haircuts. So being that the way he saw them, the way his view was on the two females, he was like, oh, they have haircuts, so they must like each other. They must both be, into each other, lesbian or whatever it may be. And so I seen that, and especially being that this is a diverse class and everyone in here looks different, would have made him probably feel a little more weird by it. So whatever his perception is on the females.
So what I hear, from that comment is there might be some stereotyping happening based on perceptions of physical appearance and what those assumptions are based on physical appearance in terms of gender. Oh wow, there's so many.
Hello.
Okay, a few more.
Hello? Oh. I also noticed that the male didn't, apologize correctly. Like, he's like, oh, I'm sorry, but, what, how actually sorry are you? You're not. So, it's one thing to say something, it's also how you say it that affects the whole scenario.
So maybe not realizing, what I'm hearing is maybe not realizing the impact of, he's not realizing the impact of his comment. And he's brushing it off as I was joking, right?
The comment that Bridget had made about being, oh, that's disgusting, kind of made the girl next to her, what's her character's name?
April.
April, kind of made April uneasy, and she kind of just shut down after that. And when, on the end in the green, when she tried to approach her, that's when she kind of just left. So I feel like her comments were kind of extreme, and she wasn't really thinking about anyone's feelings.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for this, for the range. I haven't heard from you. I don't know why I'm doing this. Doesn't make any sense.
I'll yell it.
But yeah, this falls under the complexity or the social construct of reality, with the stereotyping and all that, and that's why, Jeff insinuated, they're flirting, but, because that's how, people are influenced, and that's how complex, society is, it affect, forms of interaction and appearances, that's like what makes people believe what, what they want to believe, or, how they think, and the ideas that come out of their minds. So, yeah, this falls under that social construct, so.
Yeah, and that's a good point about how, these are interpersonal dynamics that we're watching here, but how are they influenced by greater societal, institutional, familial messages about how people should act and how should they look and all that stuff. And actually, that is a really good segue into our next activity. So thank you for doing that for us. So we're going to do another activity. You have to help me. Where we are going to get into the heads of each of the characters. And for this activity, and for those of you who were here in the morning, you remember that we asked you to think of like I statements about when the conflict happens, when the blow up happens, what are the characters thinking? And what is the spectrum of what they could possibly be thinking? We're going to do something similar, but we're going to switch it up a little bit and instead focus on like the internalized fears that each character might be thinking of. And that's when the societal part comes in. What might society, family, institution be telling each character when the blow up happens? So instead of an I statement, it's more like a you statement. Like you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, that kind of thing. So, and this technique is a theater of the oppressed technique called cops in the head. And it's the cops that have embedded ourselves in our head, in our brain, that keep putting up stop signs that prevent us from living life fully. So we're going to work with those kinds of statements, those societal, structural statements. Does that make sense? So we're gonna experiment with this, and so
I was going to interject one thing, which is that sometimes some of the terminology used around this could be internalized oppression. Sometimes it could be internalized privilege on the other side of that. So these are some of the things we're getting at. And this activity was created by Augusto Boal when, after he left Argentina, where there were issues like people were being killed and people were being jailed, and it was all of these very intense issues. Then he moved to Europe, and people they still had all these problems, even though their government wasn't maybe doing the same thing. And so he was trying to understand, what is happening here? These people are still suffering. There's still so much oppression. What is it? And he invented the cops in the head, which was like, even though there may be less visible problems, oppressors, these oppressors still exist, and where do they live? Sometimes inside of us.
So what I would like to do is ask each character to say one cop that's going on in your head when the blow up happens. Does that make sense when I say the blow up? Okay.
You have to show them that you are the authority.
You shouldn't say anything because they're going to turn it back on you.
You have to look more feminine if you want people to think you're normal.
The real problem here is you being queer.
You're the guy, you should take charge.
So, I bet that there are some people out there that have other thoughts that they think might be going on in the heads of these characters. So I'd like to hear from folks who have a line to add. And like we said, this can be a message from your family, it can be a message from society, from the government, from the institution, from your friends, from your enemies. So you want to begin the sentence with you, and usually sometimes there's a should in there, or shouldn't. So who has one for one of the characters? Yes. Okay.
If I say the wrong thing, I won't get tenure.
Okay, come on up. You won't get tenure.
If I say
if you say the wrong thing, you won't get tenure. No. Sorry. Thank you. All right, so you're going to stand behind the instructor. Okay. And how about a few more for this instructor character? Yeah.
My mom was right. I get involved with these things, then people are going to judge me.
Okay. Yeah. So put it in a you phrase.
You should have listened to your parents.
Yes. Okay, come on up. And another one for the instructor. Yes. Yes, come on up. Thank you. And any more for the instructor character? All right, let's move on to Morgan's character. What else might be something that Morgan's character is thinking? Yes. Okay, so it's not about you. So what would be the message from society? Yeah, so like how would you frame that? Can anybody help out with how that might be framed? You don't want it to be about you? You don't want it to be about you? Okay, okay. Yeah. All right. There's one in the back for Morgan, yes.
You shouldn't speak up because they'll assume you're queer too.
Okay, come on down. All right. Anyone else for Morgan's character? Okay. How about for Bridget? Bridget, what was yours again?
You have to look more feminine if you want people to think you're normal.
Okay.
I have another one.
Well, let's hear your other one.
You better watch who you hang out with. It could rub off on you.
Okay. Anybody else want to try one for what the messages from society? The cops in the head, all right? Okay, yes, you better comply. Thank you. And now for April's character. What was yours again?
The real problem here is you being queer.
All right. What else? Yeah, there's one here.
You're not even accepted by your friends.
Okay, come on out. Thank you. Another one for April.
You're not safe to be yourself.
Okay, come on down. Any more for April? Yes. Okay, come on up.
For April, that cop in the head, you should have known that this was going to happen if you came out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Yes. Come on up. And now for, what's your name?
Jeff.
Jeff. Okay. Now for Jeff. Messages that may be affecting Jeff, maybe internalized privilege. What does that look like? Yeah.
You're just as oppressed as they are.
All right, come on up. What was that? What did he say? What did you say?
You're just as oppressed as they are.
You're just as oppressed as they are. Yes, Joe.
You know they're just like all the women, they overreact about everything.
Nice one. Yes, come on up. Ooh, another one for Jeff. Another one for Jeff. Anybody? Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, come on up. So it already says something about power dynamics when the character we have as the oppressive character is saying, you're not the problem here, and the character being oppressed is saying, you're the problem here. So we already start to see. So I'd like to have the moment. Okay, so this is going to be hard, and everyone on stage, you're going to have to be super loud, okay? So call upon your inner, use your diaphragm, stick out your belly, you're going to be loud. And you're going to come up with a gesture, and this gesture can be ugly because this is the ugliness of our world, right? These are the messages we receive that we don't necessarily agree with. So, we're going to go from the moment right before the conflict, when the professor walks up and says, how's everything going here? And we're going to go until the moment when, the first silence, right? Before the professor comes back. So we're going to go till that point. And then you all are going to freeze. And then I'm going to point to each group, and you're going to one by one shout out your thing. And you're going to do 2 rounds. You're going to say your line, 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 say your line. Okay, does that make sense? And I'll point. Okay, so we're just going to hear all the messages and how that it impacts us. How can we behave in the world when all of these things are coming at us? Okay, so let's go back to that point in the scene. And you all are the cops in the head. So you can really try to oppress the heads of these people that you're in, right? You're the messages affecting our behavior every day that we try to push out. All right, so the scene is going to start. Super loud. And if it's not loud enough, I'm going to say, what? All right. Okay.
How's everything going over here?
It would be fine if they'd stop flirting.
What? What did you just say to me? God, that's disgusting anyway.
Okay, 10 more minutes, everyone, to finish your interviews.
Why would you even say that?
What? I was just making a joke.
You wouldn't think it was funny if somebody said that about you and some guy.
Whatever, it's not a big deal.
What an asshole.
You should have listened.
That's all right.
You can't let these students see you as weak.
Yes.
If you say the wrong thing, you're not going to get tenure.
Again.
Sorry. You can't let these students see you as weak. If you say the wrong thing, you won't get tenure. You should have listened. You don't want it to be about you.
Don't defend them because they'll think you're queer too.
You better comply.
Again, here.
You don't want to make it about you.
Don't defend them because they'll think you're queer too.
Again.
You don't want to make it about you.
Don't defend them because they'll think you're queer too.
And yours?
You don't want to say anything or else they'll turn it back on you.
You better comply.
Your friends don't even accept you.
You better comply.
Your friends don't even accept you.
You better comply.
Your friends don't even accept you.
Comply.
Your friends don't even accept you.
Comply. Your friends don't even accept you. Comply.
This is against your religion. You should have known better than to come out. You knew this was going to happen.
You're not safe to be yourself.
This is against your religion. You knew this would happen when you came out.
You're not safe to be yourself.
The real problem here is you being queer.
You're a guy, you should take charge.
You're just as oppressed as they are.
Just like all the women, they're always over defensive. You're not the problem. Just like all women, they're always overreact.
You're just as oppressed as they are.
You're not the problem.
The real problem here is you being queer.
You're not the problem.
The real problem here is you being queer.
You can't let these students see you as weak.
All right, thank you all. How did that, for the audience, what was that like to see all these messages? Did you recognize them? Have they affected you and your actions in the world? Every day. What about for the people that were up there? Anyone want to comment on what it felt like to be one of these cops? Ugly. Ugly. Any of the other cops?
But just the fact that this goes on in our heads, and that we kind of suppress who we. All right, put one of these in your face, boy. But I mean, you guys are incredible actors. But the fact of it is that being up there and hearing all those responses, that the intensity of the pain is so real, even though this is acting. I mean, honestly, I just wanted to cry because I could feel the authenticity of the pain, what I felt.
Mm-hmm.
So.
You bring up a great point because we're doing these plays and they bring up a lot of painful situations and a lot of challenging situations, and to watch them over and over and experience them over and over is very difficult, and it's painful, and we do an exercise at the end of the day where we take off our characters because they do become very heavy, and but it's a good observation. And I think a lot of people think that theater is about an untruth in the world or a fiction, but actually it's about the truth, right? It's sometimes more truthful than we are in our everyday lives.
Reiterate that these plays that you've seen today are based, I mean, you probably already guessed this, but these are based on real experiences. So in a sense, yes, we are acting, and we're doing performance to be a tool to open up dialogue, but it already sounds like people here are already feeling it. They're embodying it. It's resonating with them. It's not acting. It's what we deal with on a daily basis.
To add to that one more time is that we experience this on a daily basis, and a lot of the time if we're the person experiencing the problem, we walk around with this burden and it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. If we're the person oppressing, sometimes nobody lets us know and we continue to oppress and oppress and oppress. So by doing this in a community setting and brainstorming ideas, it's also opening up this conversation so that it doesn't happen alone.
So we're going to start the forum theater process again, but before we do that, we would like for you, again, to get into a pair or a triad and just talk a little bit more about the play, and specifically about what are the intervenable moments. Where do you imagine you might step in and change the scene? Specifically, what are the different moments of this play where you're like, no, this needs to be changed, this needs to be intervened upon? So talk in those kinds of specifics, because I think that'll help with, it always helps talking about it before we go into forum. Some way that you relate with in some way. So again, for example, so April is an intervenable character by someone who identifies as female and queer, okay? And she'll reiterate that. If I were a spect-actor, I identify as female, but I do not identify as queer. But I do identify as somebody who wants to be in solidarity with queer people. So I might intervene for Morgan's character. I might intervene for the professor character. But I will not intervene for April because that is not my reality. And this is a rehearsal for the present and the future. And so we want to keep it as real as possible, okay? And again, when you do come on stage and intervene, you are taking on the character. You're not talking to them, you're April or you're Professor Ramos, okay? And we go through the scene and they'll stay in and the players will stay in character. So once again, we have to practice saying stop, because you yell stop when you want to come on stage and intervene. So on the count of 3, let's have it be as loud as it was in the morning. 1, 2, 3. Stop! Okay, awesome. All right. Okay, so now let's get started, and let's have each player introduce themselves and who can intervene for them.
So I am Dr. Ramos, assistant professor, and I am intervenable by anyone.
And I'm Morgan, and I am a student and intervenable by anybody.
I'm Bridget, and I am not intervenable.
I'm April, and I'm intervenable by anyone who identifies as queer and female.
And I'm Jeff, and I am not intervenable.
Okay.
And also, each time there's an intervention, I know that sometimes the intervention starts to go crazy and you want to intervene on the intervention. There was a lot of that. But just sticking with the rules of the Forum Theater, we're going to stay with one intervention at a time, but hold that thought, and if you have a great idea, or a good idea, or even just an idea, wait and we will get to you the next round, or try to, okay? All right.
Okay, we'll start the scene.
Hi.
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 Hi. Hey, I like your Tegan and Sarah sticker. My girlfriend is obsessed with them.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, they're great.
Hey.
Hey.
So, we've been talking about how academic argument is a conversation. And let me write the names of the authors we've read so far on the board.
Hey.
Hey.
Did you do the reading?
Yeah, sort of. Did you?
No, not really. I thought it was kind of stupid.
Okay, so we've read these authors' perspectives about social media and privacy. And today I'm going to ask you to get into groups of 4 and write a radio interview. You have 15 minutes to write a script where one person is the interviewer and the other 3 persons are the authors you've chosen. And then we can perform that interview for the class, okay? Let me know if you have any questions.
Do you two want to be in our group?
Sure.
Sure.
So, who wants to write this down?
Not me.
I can do it. Do we want to start with authors or interview questions?
Well, authors would obviously be way easier.
Okay, so what authors do you want to use?
Well, I really like the one about how Facebook has actually improved communication just because it's so opposite of what people usually say.
I know, right? The other ones are kind of lame for being all down on Facebook. I mean, who doesn't like Facebook?
But how would we turn that into an interview? I think we should do it on a different article.
Oh, there's that one. Isn't there that one that's about like a coffee shop and it's like, what's more important, talking to the barista or texting your sister?
Oh, yeah, the example we talked about in class?
Yeah.
I think that's Regina Lynn.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we want to go ahead and start with that author then?
Yeah, maybe we should find the place in the article where she actually says that.
There's a better place in that article, actually. I've got it highlighted.
How's everything going over here?
It's fine.
It would be fine if they'd stop flirting.
Excuse me? What did you just say to me? God.
Oh, there were like 3 stops. Oh my gosh, you're right. I saw the first one back here. Yay! Okay. Sorry.
And the microphone is over here. Dimitri has one, or actually we can just use a handheld. How about this? This is faster. Here you go. Thank you.
So which character would you like to intervene for?
I'd like to be the professor, please.
Okay, and where would you like to start the scene?
I'll just go over and ask them.
How it's going?
Yeah, how it's going.
Okay. All right.
How's it going?
It's fine.
It would be fine if they'd stop flirting.
Excuse me? What did you just say to me?
What?
God, we were flirting. That's disgusting anyway.
Okay, guys,
What's
let's just take a second
what's
here.
wrong with you?
1 second, please. Morgan, right?
What?
No, sorry. Sorry, what was your name?
Bridget?
Bridget, just take a second. Guys, can I have the whole class come back for a second? Today we are meant to be talking about academic argument as conversation, and I've noticed in some of your groups your conversations are a little bit fraught, and I thought maybe we could take that back to the whole class and maybe come up with some guidelines together of how we can have conversations within academia, talking about things that may be a little bit complicated in a way that we make sure we don't offend people, even if it was intended as a joke or you didn't mean it to be offensive. Sometimes when we're talking about complicated issues, that can happen. So let's take it back and talk about, so for example, that's one way I hear you're frustrated right now. Is that true?
What?
Pardon. Are you frustrated right now?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to unpack that a little bit and think about what would have helped you not be frustrated in a conversation? Okay, I'm going to give you some examples. Maybe if you're having a conversation with people and you're going to talk about things that maybe you find offensive or they find offensive or kind of a touchy subject for you, you want them to not use words that you find offensive. So maybe we could talk a little bit about the kind of language.
Maybe if we're like trying to do a project, you don't just accuse people of things like that have nothing to do with what we're doing.
It was just a joke.
Yeah, it wouldn't be funny if somebody said that about you and some guy.
Guys, this is exactly what we want to try and avoid. I can see you're both frustrated, and I think maybe if we take a step back and think about what the intention was, I'm sure Jeff, right? Jeff didn't mean to offend anyone. I'm going to always take the assumption that people didn't mean to do the worst thing. So try not to think the worst of people.
Yeah, but he intended to label what we were doing as like perverted.
I didn't say perverted.
Guys,
I just said
again,
you were flirting.
Whatever.
Guys, let's try and talk about what we do. We can only control our own reaction to things. Maybe you thought that's what Jeff was doing. Let him explain in his own words that that isn't what he wanted to do.
You can't read my mind.
What are we even talking about?
We're trying to make sure that we've got guidelines for respectful conversation where we don't assume the worst of people. Now, if you're feeling very frustrated at this moment, then you might want to come and talk to me after class, and we'll try and come up with a way to help you guys get over this issue right now. But for the whole class as a whole, I think we could take this as a learning experience and try and be mindful of the language we're using and make sure that we're not assuming the worst of people, make sure we're not throwing things that could be considered an accusation. I'm going to start off with our group discussion rules by saying I'm only going to use I statements. So perhaps if Jeff, if you were feeling frustrated, one way you could have expressed that in a way that could be less easily misconstrued, we say, I feel like maybe we're having too much of an informal conversation and I would like to focus on the assignment in hand. That way you're not unintentionally accusing someone. And hopefully if we can try and use that as our base guideline, we can have these conversations, stay on point to talk about academic argument as a conversation, and we can practice what we're theoretically talking about as well by having academic conversations instead of academic arguments. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, does anyone else have a suggestion of some of the guidelines we might want to follow? I'm suggesting I statements. What about maybe considering the different experiences that people are bringing to the table, different experiences of gender, of sexuality, of race? That could be something that we want to keep in the back of our minds before we express our own opinions. Anyone else? I can't have a conversation on my own, guys. This is academic argument and conversation.
We shouldn't be writing notes to one of the other people in the group. We should come together as a group and work together.
Okay, yeah. We'll get better at kindergarten.
Well, that's a kind of negative way of approaching maybe a positive idea. So let's take the positive of that idea, which is to express our ideas to everybody and make sure that there isn't any talking behind each other's back, or that, because that's how, yeah, and that's maybe how the interaction could be more positive and you could be less inclined to misinterpret things.
Okay, so Bridget, what would you like to talk about for the interview?
Like that thing I said, like the thing about Facebook or the barista or whatever. I don't care.
Okay, let's do that one. That's fine.
Okay, you guys still seem a little bit tense, so make sure that you've let go of any misconstrued opinions or any offense that you may have taken. Let's take a step back and start over, and also think about maybe if there's something that you said during this conversation in the heat of the moment that might have offended your group members or other members of the community. This would be a good opportunity to just be a little bit self-reflective. Think about any words you've said in anger and take this opportunity to just apologize either to a specific person you think that might have affected or to the group in general, because you never know what experiences people are bringing with them. Can we take a moment and do that? So I'm going to apologize straight away. As a professor, I should have given you better tools to have this conversation. I'm sorry to anyone who had a frustrating experience because I didn't take that responsibility. Does anyone else want to take this moment to do that?
I'm sorry that you misunderstood what I said.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. It takes a lot to try and stand up and say, I'm sorry. Just remember to, when you give an apology...
I'm sorry, you say such asshole things.
Okay, that was going to be my example. When you give an apology, guys, make sure you're not turning it around on the person you're apologizing to. That's a counterproductive apology. I didn't say, I'm sorry you guys failed the assignment. That would be horrible, right? I would say, I'm sorry I didn't give you the tools. So make sure your apology is always reflective of yourself and not accusatory, okay? So
Okay,
think about that.
We're gonna stop there. No. Okay. You stay up here. Okay. You did a lot. You tried to do a lot of things. What was the main tactic you were trying to do there?
Acknowledge and diffuse. I think acknowledging that something's happened straight away, in my own experience, is the only way you stop it getting worse. But I don't know if I did that very well.
So I'd like to ask April, because we didn't hear a lot from you during that exchange. What was going on for you?
I mean, I was really glad that the professor stepped in to deal with it, because it was a really big problem and was like linking it to some of the things that we're learning and trying to get people to behave better. I just felt like the whole class was looking at us, and there was a lot of attention on our group, and I was just really afraid that maybe someone was going to say something, or I didn't know if like more homophobic things were going to get said, and like I was just kind of at a certain point I kind of stopped listening. I was just trying to figure out like whether I could leave or like whether that would like draw too much attention to myself or.
Thank you, April. Did that change anything for you, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad the professor came over and tried to get us back on track. I still didn't quite understand what Bridget was so upset about. I mean, I guess I did use a stronger tone than I was intending when I was just joking, but at least we were able to keep going.
And Morgan, we didn't hear a lot from you. What was going on in your mind?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's a little bit of coddling of Jeff and Bridget, and I kind of thought that was messed up, actually, and that, like, there wasn't any, like, the professor, I think, was trying to mediate, but also, like, didn't name what was happening. Like, there was some pretty explicit homophobia happening, and then also sexism, too, and I just I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you. So thank you very much for your intervention. And there were other hands that came up as soon as that problem happened. So
Yeah.
who wants to come up and try an intervention?
Okay, there's one right here, and then I know. Where would you like to try it from?
And who are you intervening for?
Okay.
Just be read in on the professor about the problem.
The professor asking, how's everything going?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Which time?
The first time?
First time.
Before the whole
Exploded?
eruption here?
Yeah, just before the explosion.
Okay.
Okay. Like I'm up here on a panel.
How's everything going over here?
It would be fine if they'd stop flirting.
What? What did you just say to me? God, why would you even say that? That's disgusting.
Whoa,
Anyway,
hey.
Okay,
Hey.
10 more minutes, everyone, to finish your interviews.
Hold on. Okay, so can I just jump in here real quick? Okay, so
Okay.
what you said was sort of homophobic, and I hate to drop that on you, calling it disgusting. You know who you hang out with in that in that other class? Guess whose boyfriend you're hanging out with? You're hanging out with his, and you.
What?
You don't even know the people you're working with. You got to have a little.
Yeah,
some,
it's a class. It's
yeah,
like a
you know?
big university. What are you talking
Well, I'm just trying to say is that we need to have a little bit of connectedness here. You, on the other hand, I can understand why you would be upset,
Kumbaya?
and you need to really sort of calm down.
I wasn't really upset.
No, I know. It's a joke, it's a joke, and I know it really hurt you, sort of on a homophobic level, for her to jump out like that. But sort of your action was actually a little bit, a little sexist, you know. Just cool down. We'll take a minute. I know.
What
you
are
might
you,
think,
like the teacher?
Hey, I just happen to be a returning student, so I actually have been out in the world a few years, so.
Oh, okay, gray one.
Yeah, I'm a nerd. Hey, I'm a nerd. I live with being a nerd here. I come back to school and stuff.
Cool.
But hey, so.
Okay, do you want to write our interview?
That'd be,
Like, what are you talking
Bridget,
about?
can you come here real quick? Oh.
That's April.
April, I'll be right back. I actually have an assignment piece that I want to talk to. April, can I talk to you real quick?
I guess.
It's just, so, I feel you on this sort of homophobic level, but I can also see that there's a lot of sexism in there. So, admittedly, when a gay male comes out and says something really sexist, it compounds something like a really offensively homophobic thing. So I don't want you to feel like you're put out here. I don't want you to feel really offended here. So do you want to trade seats with me real quick so you're not in the middle of this?
I don't think I can work with those people anymore. So I
Actually,
appreciate-
no, I know.
I appreciate what you're trying to do. I think, and it was cool that you said that was homophobic because it totally was, and like I don't think that she realized that. And,
Yeah, and
so yeah, that's really nice of you to stop me, but I think I'm just gonna
actually,
go home.
because I really think you will really get a good grade on this because you've got good input. How about you sit where I'm at? You and I will interface. You don't have to jump into this. You don't have to intervene. We'll just let it cool off, and I'll try to defray this, and then we'll roll back, and hopefully we get some really good output from you.
I think I'm just gonna email the professor and just kind of let her know why I'm not in class. So
Well,
yeah,
actually,
that's
but
fine.
I want you involved,
see
so
you
I'll give you my email address, and I'll let you email me, and we'll loop you back into
Okay.
the. Okay, cool.
Okay, thank you. For a round of applause. So, you can keep that for a moment. So,
Okay.
from the audience, what did this new Morgan do to change the scene? In the way back there, and for folks, they're going to need microphones. Whoever, I don't know. Yeah, there you go. Raise your hand high. There you go.
Yeah, I think it was really cool that he was trying to intervene and help out, but being too pushy could be really hard for someone in that situation. Like, how many times do you need to say, no, thank you? It's not really respecting consent if someone has to say no over and over and over to you. So he wanted to help, the intention was good, but his actions were not really respectful in how he was trying to deliver that.
Okay. Another comment on what you perceived this Morgan doing differently? Yeah.
Without their permission.
Okay. So this Morgan might have outed someone without their permission. Let's hear from the folks on stage. What were you trying to do?
Oh, sorry. Trying not to kick stuff around here. One of the big things that I wanted to do was sort of try to do the overly involved intervener. So someone who, yeah, the person who tries to jump out there. Because sometimes what that does is it does create a conclusion where people storm off, they're all steamed, but it looks over. But there's that sort of intervention that goes too far or tries to be like the white knight, the savior, the everybody, everything to everybody kind of intervention versus the passive listening, trying to be compassionate to each person on their individual level.
How did that affect your character?
Well, at first I wasn't understanding why he was attacking me because the problem is over there, but at least he was like getting us calmed down and we were trying to get back on track. I mean, that was all right. shouldn't have said what he said, but
Yeah. Okay. What do you mean by that?
well, if he shouldn't have necessarily outed me. I mean, that was my decision to make, not his.
Right. Okay. How was that experience for you, April?
Well, I appreciated that Morgan said like what got said was homophobic, like that, and I was gonna jump in and to agree, but I didn't feel like there was a lot of space, and then I figured I couldn't work with those people anymore, so I just left. And I don't know, it was nice of Morgan to like kind of try to follow up, but I felt a little bit like hounded, like I just kind of wanted to get out of there, and it's like I think it was well intended, but I just like wanted to leave and feel like I could.
For Bridget.
I don't know. He just like came in and was like all of a sudden like running stuff, and I didn't know what he was doing. I don't know what he's talking about, and I don't really care. I didn't really think it was about him.
All right. Thank you very much. I know there was another person ready to intervene. So come on up.
Okay, which character do you want to intervene for?
I'd like to be the teacher.
Okay, and what part of the scene? You need a mic? Which part of the scene?
This will be right at the blow up.
When you come over and say, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm going to ask them how they're doing.
Okay.
How's it going, y'all?
It's fine.
It would be fine if they'd stop flirting.
What? What did you just say to me?
Hey, cut the crap. Cut the crap. You're in school right now.
Why would you even say that?
Hey.
Whatever.
Hey, calm down. I assume you guys all got copies of the syllabus because they were passed out the first day of class. I remember. School is a safe environment, all right? You guys are required to do group work as part of this class. And if you guys can't manage to work together, I suggest you guys get a new team. Because it'll come out in your peer evaluations. Seems like you guys are having some problems.
Cool.
This is the beginning of the project. You know what I'm saying? If you guys got to split up, I can easily pair you up with someone over there.
I'll take a new team.
That's fine. Do you have any more problems?
No, I'm fine.
All right, cool. You just got to reassign the group.
Cool.
All right, they're going to be nice. Do you have any more problems? Like, do you like these people? You good? Are you good?
I don't care.
Do you want a good grade?
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to work with these people? Is a yes or no question, honestly. Are you going to be able to work with them in a civil manner? Not like this lady who just had to get removed from the group because she couldn't handle it?
Whatever.
Hey,
What's your
excuse
problem
me.
anyway?
Excuse me. This is my classroom. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to work well with them? It's fine.
I'm just trying to take notes.
Cool. Sounds like you're doing great. You're going to be able to work fine with this guy?
Sure.
Are you going to be able to work fine with her?
Sure.
All right. I'll deal with her later. Don't worry about that. It's not your grade. It's her grade. She'll be back in class tomorrow. She'll email me. Something will happen. That's how I'd handle that.
Okay, audience. What was different, or what did you see? What did you see? What's that? I'm sorry, I can't hear. Too assertive, aggressive, and be more specific.
And what's the resolve? The resolve is somebody's going to need a new group. That was great, but then it kind of went over the top.
In what way? How is it aggressive and how is it assertive?
The assertion being, coming in and identifying, okay, there's a problem. We're all college students. We don't need to behave this way. It's a group project. If you can't work together as a group, well, then we find a new group. Break it apart. If there's no resolve, then find another group. But then to continue to hound, I felt like it was hounding, and then it just became a conflict between the teacher and the student instead of student and student.
There's a rebuttal here.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, Okay, there's somebody over there first.
Oh, I noticed that like the teacher, like he stopped the problem right in the beginning before anybody can get their feelings hurt, or somebody can say something that they regret later.
I like that he jumped in and tried to stop it and maintain the classroom. However, are we all going to get along in the world? No. Right? My students sometimes can't get along in groups, but I say welcome to the world. Figure out a way that you guys can all come together. It might have been that he's a male. He was up on the mic. It sounded aggressive, maybe more back here than up there. I'm not sure. But it almost turned into almost like an embarrassment situation for people versus a learning and getting along for a common goal kind of concept.
I thought the same thing in this, or that people have kind of mentioned, that it was good that you kind of, shut the situation down a little bit in the beginning, but it was very physically intimidating to me, and if I was a student that was experiencing that, primarily from on the left, that like you kind of hovered over the person and was like kind of hounding them and then, cut them off, and like to me, like that's a faculty member I would talk to somebody else about, like if a faculty member was coming at me like that. So I think, again, being on stage and being that this is kind of a, acting thing, it might be a little bit exacerbated, but that to me was very, very just physically intimidated and didn't really solve any of the actual problem.
Yeah, I would agree. It didn't solve anything, and I would go so far as to say the teacher was bullying the students, and that's not a good thing. And the teacher wasn't doing good modeling by the fact that he was cursing.
I've had teachers that cursed.
Well,
Just throwing that out there.
It's unfortunate, but that's not the best modeling for classroom cooperative behavior.
I really like that the intervener took responsibility for what was going on in the classroom, because the faculty member does have responsibilities. And initially, the initial instructor seemed to feel kind of panicky or frozen about how to deal with this. So I like the assumption of responsibility. But I think for me as a faculty member, I want it to be a safe space for all students, and that means I can't create a situation where I extrude or get rid of a student who says something that's offensive. That is, and maybe it's an opportunity for some, and also that there's always a tendency, I think, to say, everybody calm down. And when somebody says that to me, I've never calmed down. It always, whenever anyone tells me to calm down, it's like, you calm down. So that I liked the spirit of the intervention, which is to take responsibility as the faculty member. But these are all your students. These are all our students. And so how can we, what's so challenging here is how can we intervene in a way that doesn't hope that some students drop the course?
I did offer her to go to another group.
I would like to ask how Morgan and April are feeling right now.
Unless they lied, they should be fine.
I don't really know why I got put in the hot seat, and I don't know. I was just trying to do the assignment, and then all of a sudden the teacher was in my face a little bit, asking if I wanted to switch groups, and I was just trying to take notes and do the assignment, so I was a little bit confused.
I felt like I was in trouble because our group exploded, and so it was good that he tried to jump in and keep things from getting worse, but then it felt like there were 3 people having a conflict, and I was just sort of paralyzed, because I didn't want to get yelled at, but I kind of wanted to leave.
All right.
I think we're done, yeah.
So maybe one more? Or what? Do you think we should do one more intervention, or do you think we should?
Just really quick.
Yeah.
Bridget, why did you leave?
Because I got on a power trip. Yeah.
Okay, let's try one more intervention.
So I'd like to see someone try an intervention that tries to get at, I don't know, perhaps connecting with April on some level. Let's try an intervention where April might not leave or might leave in a different way, or yeah. We already saw one where actually there was an extra bit of conversation that happened over here, so that kind of started to get at that. Does anyone have an idea for another intervention, either as someone intervening for April, or the instructor, or Morgan? Those are the three. Who has an idea? Right here. Okay. Come on up. Thank you. Come on up.
See Nina outside.
Who would you like to intervene for? Morgan, April, the instructor. April? Okay. Yeah. Come on up. That's all right. We're going to help you. Okay. Or April or Morgan?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter? Okay. Well, this one, character is not intervenable. This character identifies as female and queer, so that is the identity markers, and then this character, it could be anybody. Okay, I'll be her. Okay, great. And where would you like to take it from? Right after the, so the same spot with the instructor, or right after she says asshole? Right after that? Okay, so how about the final two lines?
Okay. You have 10 minutes to finish your interviews. How is this group doing?
Okay.
Why would you even say that? You wouldn't think it was funny if somebody said that about you and some guy.
Whatever, it was just a joke.
Asshole.
Hey, Jeff. So I think we should talk about what happened.
Yeah, I
and
don't
the
know
way
why.
you made
I don't know
her-
why she's reacting that way.
Can you think about how you made her feel?
Maybe because you're accusing people of being that
Jeff?
way of.
Jeff?
I wasn't accusing you of anything. And it's if you're gay, it's fine.
Friend, can you
Oh
tell
my
me how
God.
she feels about this?
Yeah, she obviously doesn't like it.
So can you think of a time when maybe someone said something to you that you didn't like?
Yeah.
Specifically something, that had to do with who you were as, let's say, a male? And you wish that someone had stepped in or done something?
I don't think so.
Like anybody ever converted by any chance?
Something at her?
I don't.
And so I just want an opportunity to kind of help all you guys out, especially April.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should definitely talk about what just happened, because like I don't know if you know that I identify as queer, but I'm super offended by you saying that that's disgusting. I mean, I know that like I wasn't flirting with you, but like
I didn't know that.
It
I'm
happens,
sorry.
and I think that a lot of times, we can work on it. Try, there's programs like an after school discussion, that we can talk about things like this, that you may want to lead and talk about how it has affected you. So.
But we only have 7 more minutes left on the assignment. I think we need to get back.
So
I mean, I don't know if the assignment is like the focus here, like, cause I don't know, like.
I think we
I don't appreciate what you said, but like I get that you were angry and like you still haven't apologized.
I'm sorry. I mean,
Why
as a
are you
cousin who's
sorry?
Gay, it's
You gotta
just-
say
it's
why
fine.
you're like. Do you really feel sorry?
I'm sorry. I was. Okay.
You know what? I think I'm gonna see if the professor can come over here and just Professor Ramos.
Is everything okay here?
We're kind of, I don't know, our group is having a problem. Is it okay if we don't do the assignment and we just kind of talk about what happened in our group?
But are you guys okay bringing the assignment for the next class, for the next meeting? Because we cannot get behind on the syllabus, I'm sorry.
Would you guys like to do that? I think we can, focus on one part of the assignment, and then when we're calm and, calm down, we can really become more effective on doing the assignment, because I want us all to get an A.
Well, that's a very positive attitude. So you guys work what you have to work and then bring that for the next class. I want to see it.
So again, we will meet up tomorrow. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's give a round of applause.
So, what were you trying to do? Talking to the mic.
Well, I don't know, first I guess putting Jeff on the spot, just talking about like how it's not right to attack someone because, we all have been through it, and then kind of just getting all their feedback on it, I guess.
April, I wanted to check in with you because I saw a lot of changes with you this time, and I'm wondering why that happened.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes, like, when conflict happens, like, I just don't know what to say. And so then Morgan would just seem like really calm and like trying to get everyone to talk about it. And so I felt like I kind of had the chance to collect my thoughts. And like, I wasn't that mad at Jeff. Like, I was kind of upset with Bridget. And I don't know. I just felt like our group got to at least talk about what was happening, and that I felt like there was at least somebody else who like wasn't in the head-to-head conflict, that we could try to like create other solutions besides people screaming at each other. So I still feel horrible about what was said, but I at least feel like, I don't know, there was a little bit of improvement.
How about for you, Bridget? You seem, what's going on with you?
I don't know. I'm just like, I didn't know that she was that way, and that's fine or whatever. I don't know. I don't really know what to think about it.
How do you think that's going to affect you moving forward, being in a group with her?
I mean, I don't think we can be friends.
Okay.
But I guess I could do the work or whatever.
All right. Thoughts from the audience? Up here. Yeah.
Yes.
A couple of times in different interventions too, we keep like calling on Jeff and saying that he's like attacking someone or doing something wrong by assuming that the girls are flirting. But I'm trying to imagine that if he were saying that a hetero couple were flirting, would we be calling it attacking or not? And I feel like a lot of attention's been put on that, and I feel like it just doesn't feel right.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Right here.
It was just the wrong kind of joking. It was wrong to, I think if Jeff had said it another way, or said something different, that the whole situation might not have happened. Whether it be female, male, male, whatever, I just think he opened that gate with the first comment. And then to say I'm joking, there's just some things you don't joke around with.
Well, it lets him off the hook for joking. There was a comment back here.
I'm really worried about April.
Mm-hmm.
Because April, we haven't said much about, is it Bridget in blue?
Mm-hmm.
We haven't said much about Bridget's comment being so painful to April. And April, no one has really addressed April's feelings, and they've left Bridget okay being very homophobic. So she's able to say, well, I suppose I can work with her, but we won't be friends. Whereas before, they were friendly enough that Jeff was making an assumption, rightly or wrongly, but there was an appearance that they got along well.
Yeah.
So I'm very worried about April. And I've been sitting here trying to figure out what I could do for intervention for April. And I can't the only thing I can come up with is something I used to use with Girl Scouts, and it was to ask Bridget, what is so bad or what is so wrong about being that way? I mean, I would challenge it directly and say, so, what is so wrong about that? And I just didn't get it. We ran out of time. So.
Right. So there's two more comments, I think, right here, and then Sharon. Yes.
So I noticed that during the different interventions, there was a different pace and style of unpacking the conflict. Somebody who shall remain nameless did the whole, start unpacking rapidly and trying to throw every little thing out in the conflict to try to pull at things they thought were causing problems and sort of dragging things sort of haphazardly. Whereas this intervention actually very carefully worked on each person systematically to sort of unpack individually and actually focused on a micro level rather than seeing some sort of, broader conflict to attack, and that did a better job of sort of defraying the conflict because it sort of slowly took the energy out of each person's anger and it recentered everything towards a more group respective dynamic versus just like, this person has this problem, this person has this problem, this part is this, and this is problematic. It just was cool, and it was a really good start.
Sure.
No, I was just going to build on what you were saying, and 2020 hindsight is really great. I was thinking if they had used that for their interview, if they had really addressed the issues that were going on, that might have been very productive. But, so then they would have gotten the assignment done and worked on the issues. They never really got to the issues. So I'm agreeing with what was said over here.
Yeah. So it sounds like in both the morning and in the afternoon, sometimes the hardest thing to do is to name what's actually happening in the scene. To name what's actually happening. And in both scenes, many times when people intervened, they started lots of conversations, but they ended up taking up yet more space, and the people that were experiencing the problem or the oppression had even less opportunity to talk, or we still didn't get to hear from them. I would say in this last one, it was nice to see April stay on stage, and it was a risky thing that happened by revealing who she was, and she didn't know, and then receiving even more painful things back of like, oh wow, this person was just laughing with me and my friend and through the quarter, and now suddenly boom. So I think that is maybe one of the learning messages that goes with us today, is that this is really hard, and a lot of times we might try things and they may not always work. It doesn't mean that we should stop trying. It just means that we have to find other ways of intervening and other ways of creating more space and hearing from those who we aren't hearing from or who are being silenced or marginalized. Thank you all very much. I want to thank the cast for being amazing, and as someone mentioned earlier, for living through this experience over and over and over. And thank you very much. So, yeah. I want to take a few minutes where perhaps we can invite all the players on stage, and the audience can ask a couple questions about what the experience was like for our student performers, or anything about the process. We have just a couple minutes for that. June was the writer of the first play. June wrote the first play, and Chelsea, who also played April, was one of the two, along with Heather, that wrote the second play.
So as Emily, I think people haven't created enough space for Emily to talk in the interventions. Emily actually has her specific research interest. She has a story about, like, she knows exactly what brings her to this meeting and what she wants to learn about. And she had some issues with Jeff, with with Reg talking about investment and market in China because, and there's another story about that, but she didn't even get a chance to talk about it. So it's not, even though people are helping Emily, she didn't actually feel empowered enough. Yeah.
So the question never came of, what are your research interests? Did it come?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure what specific interventions will change it, but I think possibly one of the things I feel about is like there's like when people intervene, there sometimes it's more confrontations, and Emily just want to avoid that. It's like, but what if the energy that bring in is like calm people, like cool up the situation? I think that might be better for Emily to have her voice. Yeah.
Thank you. And maybe we can hear from April also, or from
Yeah.
Chelsea.
How about from Chelsea?
Okay.
I'm tired of
Thanks.
being April. Yeah, I would actually, June, what you just said about being calm is something that's really struck me in this process. And something that I think I've learned from my own teaching is that the interventions, whether they're for the ally character or for the professor character, and I think that our last Morgan, that's why April changed a lot in the last scene, was because it was a very calm and gentle and sort of self-possessed way of intervening that really, and someone had mentioned that the kind of tempo change, that it really slowed down the scene. And so for April, April is out, and April wants to advocate for herself, and April wants to be able to join the conversation, but just like in that moment of being so hurt and so offended, it's really hard to turn around and then have the confidence to react to that. So having someone else who's helping to get the level of conflict down to a point where people can actually talk, I think allows April to kind of find her own voice. And that's April, so that I certainly don't mean to speak for everyone. But I think that in seeing the play played a few times, that kind of calm presence being brought into the scene is something that has really struck me as being effective.
There's a question in the back of the room.
Hi. This question is for Anna and Bridget. How difficult was it for you to displace yourself away from the extreme characters that you played?
While
Sorry, the
playing
character
or-
names, Anna and Bridget.
While playing them or after?
Well, while playing them. Yeah.
How
is
it?
it?
Maybe say the question one more time. Like, what did it feel like to play these characters, or?
Yeah, because you played very extreme
Yeah.
characters that felt a very strong way about something. So
Okay.
I imagine that wouldn't correlate with your natural personality.
How did it feel to play these oppressive characters?
It's actually, for me, it's been a really interesting process because I'm really conscious as myself of what I'm doing, but my character isn't. So it's kind of easy for me to play a really aggressive character and reactive character because I can be that. So it's a little icky. It's actually pretty darn icky because I have been this character in some way of my life. So I'm kind of a little schizo, and I feel like I take it off a little too sometimes when I leave the stage.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's icky and it's kind of hard to shed. I think I've learned a lot about relating to people who are presenting as difficult by inhabiting that. And I mean, I think I actually have developed a lot of compassion for Bridget. So I think the more intensely bad Bridget looks from the outside, is the more self-protective you're seeing myself for her, trying to protect her. She doesn't feel at home in the university. She doesn't think she's smart enough. She doesn't think she should be here. She's looking for someone to tag along with. She thinks that she's not very good looking, very attractive to other people, and so she's really aware of norms and tries to pick up on all of those things. And I feel like I relate to her more and more, and that's weird. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? There's one way in the back there.
I really appreciate all of you, especially Chelsea, what you had said about kind of sitting in this moment and seeing like teachings from this in your own like life. And one of the things that I kind of picked up on that was the discomfort of sitting with discomfort. And so in my grad program, one of our big community guidelines for the classroom was to sit with discomfort, and having these conversations about identity and intersectionality and stuff can be challenging and discomforting. So I guess my question for any of you would be, you do this a lot, and would be for myself and others here, any tips that you have for when you have these conversations, what are some ways to sit in that discomfort and make it okay to sit in that discomfort and channel what you want to say or what you don't want to say, if that makes any sense?
Something I would say is, I feel like, one of the hallmarks of white supremacist culture and other like dominant cultures is that like the people who are gaining privilege because of that, get to try to stomp out being uncomfortable, right? And so I think if you're in a facilitation role where you're having conversations like that, like call that out from the get-go, right? Like point out that some of us deal with discomfort every day because of the identities that we have, and others of us may not have that experience. And so if that starts to come up for you and you start to feel uncomfortable, like recognize that that might be even momentary compared to what a lot of people in your groups may be experiencing on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's hard because there's a fine line between asking people to sit with discomfort and asking people to re-experience their oppression. So I think that what you're saying, like where people who need to sit with discomfort are people who don't normally experience the discomfort around that issue, whereas you're trying to take some of the discomfort away from the people so the people who are experiencing oppression, you're not trying to make them sit with their oppression more, but that's hard to do when you have a group of people who have a lot of different identities and occupy a lot of really different relationships to privilege. So,
the one thing that strikes me, and I was only here for a little bit of the first one, is that there weren't very many questions asked, and I think questions have a pretty powerful effect for those who are experiencing oppression, but also for the oppressors. I mean, Bridget's not very good at answering questions, you guys would have figured out. Had she been asked, she stumbles, she feels on the spot, and she feels shame. And putting her in a shame position isn't necessarily going to be effective, but it might start to turn the problem into what's actually going on, rather than, like, she'll just keep throwing stuff out there if you try to confront her, so. Yeah.
I think also that in our conversations and what we see constantly from the audience, from the spect-actors, is that we always want to see a happy end, right? And we want to find a solution so hard, and many times we can't. Many times it's so messy that somebody will always be hurt in the process. So I think that the main goal is to bring the topic into conversation and how these things intersect with each other, male privilege, homophobia, heterosexism, all that is like happening in the same space. And making that connection, I think that's one of the most important things for us to bring that situation on stage.
another thing for me is when I'm feeling comfortable in doing it is naming my discomfort, claiming it explicitly and saying, okay, April, I'm really uncomfortable right now. I'm sorry that I created this, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And once I say that, then I'm able to more easily get to the other things that are going on inside.
I'm sure many of you have heard this before, but one of the things that we always talk about is trying to create a safe space. And I think what this shows is really how that conversations have started moving towards a safer space, acknowledging that there's not going to be one space that feels safe for all people at all times. And when we see how even trying to intervene in supporting somebody else might have a negative impact on someone else's identity or be uncomfortable for us, but having that awareness from the beginning, ostensibly at the beginning of the class, opening up those conversations, creating opportunities for failure and discomfort is part of how we all try to embrace that, and then being aware that this is going to happen. And it's going to happen in ways that maybe we didn't predict.
Thank you all. I think that we are coming to the close of our day, so I appreciate that you have another comment, but I think we have to close up because they have more stuff to do. We have one final 2-minute thing that we will do. Thank all the actors.